check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association Podcast. My name is Max Ceron and we're here with a very special guest who we at the CWB have gotten into cahoots with for a variety of programs, but we're really here to talk about her role and her journey in her life as a Boilermaker. So we have Jamie Bevan, who's the National Director of Training for the Boilermakers, and welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks, Max. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, where are you located right now, Jamie?
I live just east of Edmonton, so Edmonton's kind of the hub.
Yeah, beautiful E-town. I love Edmonton, one of my favorite cities in the country.
It's winter, so I'm not sure I can agree with you, but I'm looking forward
Also
to
one of the coldest cities in the country, so
Oh, yeah, it's been very cold this year.
it has been. And you guys don't get the same Chinooks as they get in Calgary. I mean, you
No.
get some, but you just get the edges of them.
Yes, they create ice rinks all over, so it's not quite the same.
So, Jamie, you're a Boilermaker. Now, let's right off the top, let's differentiate maybe for our listeners what the different types of jobs within Boilermakers are, because this show is generally mostly about welding, fabrication. It's kind of where the show is usually about. But the Boilermakers encompass a whole bunch of different skills and trade sets, right? So,
Yeah.
what is under the Boilermaker brand?
Okay, so like overarching Boilermaker
Mhm.
brand, we've got Boilermakers and welders specifically, and then Boilermakers really can be in two branches, which would be like fitters and then riggers. And so they'll work together with welders on industrial sites across the country.
Okay, now in your career, when did you join the Boilermakers?
Oh gosh, that was a very long time ago. It was 20 plus years ago. I was in my
Mm.
early 20s when I signed on and became a Boilermaker apprentice. Yeah.
Apprentice. And did
Yeah.
were you already in a trade before you went to the Boilermakers? I know many people perhaps start in fabrication or welding or even pipe or whatever, and then end up with the Boilermakers. Was that kind of a path you had? What were you before you joined the Boilermakers, or did you just walk into the recruitment center and were like, "Hi, I'm Jamie. I
I
know
want to be a
nothing."
Boilermaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was fortunate to find the Boilermakers. I went to college after high school,
Hmm.
and after 2 years, I took a horse training program for 2 years, and found that I needed a job to pay for my hobby, which was horses. So
Hmm.
I started looking in the trades. I was in Alberta. Prospects were really good across the trades, and I was fortunate enough. I had a neighbor that was a Boilermaker, and I'll be honest, I didn't know what a Boilermaker was at the time. I
Hmm.
didn't have family. I just really wanted to get my hands dirty and get in a trade, and I went down to the Union Hall and got a dispatch slip. It ran a little different 20 plus years ago, and I went
Hmm.
on to a job site and I fell in love with it.
So now before that, you said it wasn't a big part of your family. Did you kind of have a feeling even before you went to horse college school, whatever, that you liked the trades? Were they kind of in your mind, like say in high school, or it wasn't really on the radar?
It's funny when I look back because my grandfather was a carpenter. And so we'd spend hours and hours putzing around in the garage, and I had my own set of tools, and those things left an impression. But when I was planning for my future, for some reason, doing it as a career didn't really dawn on me until after college, and I was trying to pay off my loans and figure out a way to, kind of become an adult. And so the trades just were such a great option. And so probably all the time that I spent, doing real hands-on kind of tasks, and I was always that kind of kid, probably just made it that much easier to decide that the trades was a good
Yeah,
career
you
option.
weren't like uncomfortable with the idea.
Oh no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I certainly saw the benefits and knew um, I was pretty lucky. I thought I could probably tackle anything. So
Well, and Alberta has one of the strongest apprenticeship streams in the country. Like, I mean, they have a more compulsory trades than any other province. But aside from that, there's a lot of people that have gotten rich off the trades in Alberta and are proud of being rich off the trades in Alberta, which I think is good for the optics of a trade. It's not like, oh, Uncle Bill is a welder. Look at him. He's dirty. He's tired every day. And, it's a lot of like, oh, look at Uncle Bill. He's a pipe fitter and he's driving a Porsche. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that that's kind of minimizing it in terms of optics, but that is a
Yeah.
positive spin because we look at doctors and lawyers as like, wow, look at the house, look at the car, right? We don't talk about look at the $200,000 student loan. I mean, like, right? And so when you got into the Boilermakers, you walked in with your I think neighbor, you said,
Neighbor, yeah.
and did you get to pick from those streams when we said at the top of the show? Did you look at wanting to be a welder or something, or were they just like, you're going to go out there and haul equipment, you're going to be pulling buckets, you're going to be pushing brooms, get out there?
Yeah. I didn't ask a lot of questions. I was just excited to have what I thought was a summer job with maybe the prospect of being something a little bit more, which it kind of turned out to be a little bit more. And I did do some investigating after I had gone to work a little bit to find out, because I did hear I could go into a welder stream or the Boilermaker stream. And so I
Mhm.
did some preliminary kind of investigation to see which one I'd prefer. And I really liked the idea. The Boilermaker is doing lots of like problem solving, fitting fabrication, layout, working with drawings, rigging, doing the math and sorting stuff out like that. And
Mhm.
the challenge really appealed to me. It wasn't that welding was off the table. I just didn't have any experience with it at the time. And so the other things spoke to me. And I think in the old documents that I was looking at between a Boilermaker and a welder, a Boilermaker made like $1 more an hour. So I was like, that one looks okay. So
Well,
that I
that's
remember seeing the difference and thinking with all of these things and
mhm.
the extra dollar, that could work out all right.
It's amazing what a dollar does. It's like I'll
Yeah.
look at trade conferences and they'll be like, like you go to these conferences and there's like all the trades listed. They'll have like scaffolding, carpentry, blah blah blah, electricians, and the first thing you look at is the wages. And you're like, especially when you get to like pipe fitter, steam fitter, boiler maker, welder, iron worker, we're all real close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're all real close in wage, and it's like, okay, they get $1 more an hour, but they get $1 more an hour pension, but then they get, you know what I mean? You start doing that tight layout, right?
Yeah. And the one thing I really learned once I got into it is it wasn't about the wage per hour, it was the earning potential. So if you're in a craft that is going to be working lots of overtime, you're going to be going in like the Boilermakers do for turnarounds and shutdowns, your earning potential goes up because of all of the compressed hours that you could be working. So that's also something to consider, not just the hourly wage.
That's a very interesting way of putting it. Compressed hours. Now I
Mhm.
know what it feels like to work many compressed hours shifts. They're long and hard, and so my dad's a lifelong Boilermaker. I didn't go down the Boilermaker stream, but he retired a Boilermaker, and that's what he did all his life. And I mean, he's retired, and his Boilermaker pension is he's doing all right. And that's what got me into welding, but he was on the welding side. And I remember him explaining to me, like, do you want to go on the welding side or do you want to go? And I was like, well, I'm not really into the hydraulic or mechanics or all that stuff. I just want to be a welder. So I just went down the welder stream. 20 years later, it's like you end up learning all that other stuff anyways if you want to elevate your trade. Like there's no way to avoid it. It's like you need to be good at rigging if you're going to be on site for whatever trade. And like I
Yeah.
mean, look at the iron workers and what they do with rigging. I don't know if anyone can top iron workers for rigging. You
Well,
may
I don't
argue,
know if
but
we're going to get into that debate on this call, but thanks, Max. Thanks for bringing it up. I have an opinion.
you know
I
what I
love
mean?
the
Like
iron
everyone
workers.
has their
Yeah, you're
thing
right.
and that they're very proud
But
about. Now,
yeah,
I'm curious because this is something that I heard about lots when I was a kid. And I kind of looked at some union work. I did permit work for all the main unions. I never became a paying member for any, but I did the permit work. I don't even know if permits are a thing if anymore, if people still permit, but it was always like my gig. I'd pick up shutdowns, in Saskatchewan. I'm picking up shutdowns every summer. I would even take holidays from my normal work to go pick up a shutdown because in 2 weeks I can make what I would make at my normal job in 3 months, right? So I had all my stainless tickets too, which stainless is money in Saskatchewan for potash mines. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pick up some work. But I remember one time I asked the Boilermakers Hall, I'm like, could I get in, like maybe on a permanent basis? And they're like, well, there's no room. And I know that that's a thing that unions have to protect because the part of paying into a union is that they're protecting you as a member. And that also includes protecting your work, your ability to work. So they can't just accept like 6 million members tomorrow because then the work gets spread out too thin and there's not enough to like work with. So then how does that work? Like, how did that work for you? Was it difficult for you to get in at that moment or was it all right?
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly, looking back, it was fairly seamless. I went to work on a few shutdowns in the beginning. I think I was still trying to determine if this was kind of a career choice. And I got the summer off because it was spring shutdowns that I was working. And then I got the summer off and didn't really anticipate that I was going to go back. And then I got a call from the training coordinator who worked out of the Boilermakers Union in Edmonton, and there were seats open for school. And he offered me a seat in school that was starting in about a month. And those decisions, like, they shape your life. And I told him
Mm-hmm.
I'd call him back and I had to think about it. And I honestly thought I'd let someone go who, had dreams of being a Boilermaker. I didn't want to take up someone's spot because um, I just
That
didn't know
committed?
enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I knew I'd commit if I stepped forward, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this is the big decision, and thank goodness I said yes, and it's changed my life, and what an opportunity. And so from there, I went to work after I finished my first year of technical training, and then it's just kind of gone on from there. But yeah, it seemed fairly seamless to me because I think the training coordinator managed everything for us
Really
as
well. Yeah.
apprentices. Yeah, so it was good that way.
Now, over the years, have you had people say, I want to be a Boilermaker, and you got to be like, oh, well, I think it's full right now? Or is it always like, just come on in? Like,
Yeah, I've been, and I think in Alberta we've been fortunate.
hmm
I spent a lot of time as the director of apprenticeship and education for the local in Alberta. And so we were pretty much always recruiting apprentices.
hmm
There's attrition, so you have members that are retiring. We've been, fairly busy. It, took a bit of a slowdown, but over my uh, 14 years there, we were always at least educating and
looking,
recruiting
yeah.
apprentices. Yeah, yeah. So it is a balance. You want to make sure that you've got, enough work for everyone that's a member, but you also have to make sure that you have enough members to fill the jobs.
hmm
And so it's a balancing act, and the business managers get to do that part. I don't envy their jobs. They work very, very hard to do that. So
Well, and that's something that I've noticed even from the outside is that I don't see as many cross-provincial call-outs within the Boilermakers as I do with some of the other trades. Like with the
yeah,
ironworkers, you'll see them call across Canada, even the US, and they'll really pull people around jobs. Granted, structural tends to be like more feet on the ground type of initial jobs, where the Boilermakers are a lot more of like the finishing end or interior work. I would say maybe that's wrong, but like doesn't seem like to be as the
like on the
giant.
boilers on the inside.
Yeah, like there's not as you can't fit
Totally.
30 people working
Yeah.
on a job. So like let's say I go to a mine site here, my experience would be like 100 iron workers show up, 20 pipe fitters, 15 boiler makers. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it depends on the job. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Is there a lot of cross province mobility with the boiler makers?
Absolutely. And the Boilermakers historically have been, they travel cards, so they'll go across the country. Lots of individuals from the East Coast will travel. And so now there's quite a bit of work for the Boilermakers across the country. So they're not needing to travel as much, but when there are open calls and there's jobs that are open, members certainly travel. And we do have members that come up from the US as well.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, for yourself, when you first rolled in, like your first year, you did your first, level at, I don't know how to name the levels, 1, 2, 3, or
Level one
ABC, or
works.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and was there a lot of other women? Were you the only girl in the class? Was there a bunch of other girls in the class? What
20.
was what?
Yeah.
What was the ratio like?
Yeah, I was the only one in the class, all four of my terms when I went to
Mm-hmm.
school. So yeah, there weren't a lot of women. There were certainly some
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal women welders, and some Boilermaker women that I got to meet along the way. But when I went through, and oftentimes on jobs, there were very few. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's changed at all in your 20 years with the Boilermakers?
I think it certainly has. I think there's I think there's lots of room to have more women on the job sites for sure. But I think there certainly has been an increase. I was even looking recently at some of the we do apprentice surveys every year nationally, and so I get to go through and check those out. And it's great to see the shifting demographics and the growth, and you can see that it's changing, and we have lots of individuals that are interested in the Boilermakers.
That's good. Like one of the things I found as a welding instructor in the apprenticeship stream was that you would have a lot of women take the class, the level one. And so sometimes even 50-50. Like I had classes where it was like six women, six men. And it was like, awesome, perfect. This is what I envisioned the future to be. But then sadly, the attrition rate for women is much higher than men. So it's like, and this is something I've been talking about all year at all the things I've been going to, because I feel like maybe a little bit of focus needs to be changed. And I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, or if you what you think, but we spend so much time kind of pushing people into the pipeline. And for the last maybe 10 years, that's really been the talk. Push everyone into the pipeline, I'm not meaning the pipeline like the physical pipeline. I'm talking like
Yeah.
the education stream of get them into the trades. Let's get women in the trades. Let's push it at a high school level. And I agree with all of that. But I don't feel we've been paying enough attention to keeping them in the trade, supporting them through to journey person, and then helping them move up the ladder into like what you have done, where you have, obviously for you to be the national director of recruitment, this is many steps. You're looking at site form and GF, you're looking at maybe running a crew for a while. You're going to have to do a lot. And then going back to school, there's probably some more training, and then maybe university. Like there's all these things that you got to do that men have always just been on that stream no matter what. Oh, like you're the sharp guy, you're gonna climb to the top someday. And and I said this in a couple podcasts ago, in 30, almost 30 years of welding for me, I've never had a female supervisor. Like, what the heck is that? Like, I mean, that's odd to say out loud. Like I've never had a female supervisor. Every other job type of career I've had women supervisors and equals and peers and aboves, and never even thought twice about it. But if I stand back and look at my welding career, I've worked with a lot of great women, mentors to me that taught me things, but yet I've never had one above me. And that says something. Like, and that's, how do you fix that? What are your thoughts on that? It's a big question, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there has been a lot of focus on recruitment. There's been a lot of front end loading, a lot of talk about attraction, and that is a piece that I think is critical, is the retention piece. How are our job sites receptive and welcoming and supportive to women on job sites? And that is something that I think everyone can take a role in making sure it's better. And so I agree, like supervisor training, not just for women, but for all supervisors to
Mhm.
understand that this is important, and ensuring that systems are in place to create an environment that is welcoming and supportive. And I've heard it said, and I really, really liked it, is a work site that's open and supportive to women is a workplace that's more open and supportive. It doesn't just benefit women on the job. It is
Just
actually a better
period.
work
Yeah.
environment.
Hmm.
And so you're going to have, as an employer, you're going to have better retention, which, you often hear employers complaining about not being able to keep staff or worried about someone else poaching their staff. And that's really it's a retention piece. And if they can get really good at retaining their employees, of,
It's a win.
it's a win.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And and you bring up a really valid point, because it opens up the demographic conversation. So 56% of the planet is women, right? We only have like, I think 5 to 7% women in the welding trades right now, and the attrition rate is almost 60% for school. I looked this up; it was brutal. And then it's like, okay, if 50% of the planet's women, and we all got moms, And we have so many problems with creating these safe work sites. What's it like for the gay or lesbian person that's working in the shadows that hasn't come out and will never come out because they see how a woman gets treated? And a woman is, quote unquote, a normal person in society that has, equal standing. These are like obvious things that should happen, but yet you see a woman get treated poorly. So if you're in part of the LGBTQ community, or if you're indigenous or a person of color, your confidence is affected by seeing that, even if you're not a woman. And that's exactly what you said. It's like, it's not about creating a better workplace for the woman. Let's create a better workplace, period, so that no one feels scared or uncomfortable or bullied or harassed. Like, and that's it's it's something that I feel like is so obvious, but we can't seem to get there.
Yeah.
We will. We will.
We will. We will.
Yeah.
And it's a culture change, and it takes a long time for culture shifts to happen. And I think we are well on our way. I think seeing what I'm seeing in the increase of attraction of women into the trades and different demographics, I really think we have an opportunity with, bold leaders. I think that's important too. We've got leadership that, are supporting that and are outspoken about that. That we can make that culture shift and create those work environments that people want to go to work at.
Yeah, you need the rock stars to be ambiguous. Like, I mean, I look at rock stars on TV, like, and I got, okay, the Guns N' Roses, but I also got like the Biff Nakeds, and we look at art, and
No
it
Sarah
doesn't
McLachlan
matter.
for you?
Or no, not really, but it could be. And I think
Yeah.
it's the same point. Like, you don't look at music and think, oh, I only like boy music, or I only
Yeah.
like girl music. You like music, and if music is music, and no one judges you for liking a female singer or a male singer, because that got figured out a long time ago. It's like, okay, art is art, right? But then we look at the trades, and we can't take that same thinking to it. I had a student, this girl Elle. She was fantastic. She showed up day one, and it's like, okay, why do you want to be a welder? Why do you want to be a welder? And everyone's kind of, you have that first day of introduce yourself, and she's like, I want to have a $400,000 house, and I want to have a house in Houston, and I want to have a house in Maui, and I figure that this trade will probably be the one that gets me there. And everyone's like, ha ha ha. She ended up getting like all her tickets, got on with the Boilermakers down in Houston, working on the oil rigs, and she has a house in Houston, and she has a house in Maui, and she's like 29. And you know what? That's what we need. Because if a guy comes in and says that, everyone's like, good for you. A girl says it, and everyone stands back and goes, wow, that's kind of shocking. No, that's awesome. 100% awesome. Good for her. Rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So now, coming up through your 4 levels, did you have much opposition? And I don't want you to slag like your trade or anything, because we all have our own things.
Yeah.
Me as an immigrant, I've had difficulties with people, companies. Did you find that you had any like issues that you were like, okay, how do I work my way through this? This is something that happens at work. You go home and you think, I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, I think I was fairly fortunate, I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
coming up. I came up with, there was certainly a perspective I had that if I did hear comments that were, not appreciated, it reflected more on those making the comments than it did on
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
And I had supportive instructors. I think being part of a union made a huge difference.
Yeah.
I believe that culture and that support is there. I've heard unbelievable stories from the other side, from the non-union
Mm-hmm.
side. Not all employers, of course. I think part of why I was so fortunate was because of the union culture that I was in.
I've
That I
actually seen some of the unions change their logos to brotherhoods or sisterhoods, and kind of work it out. But I think most of them are still brother. Is the Boilermaker still the Brotherhood?
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Yeah, it's tradition and
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's an old
yeah.
union. It's been around a long time.
Yes, yes, they have for sure. Yeah.
That is something beautiful about unions, though. Because I remember my dad talking about this, and he'd go to his union meetings, and he'd tag me along, and I'd be a kid. And he was also part of the CWB, or the CWB Association back then. I know it was the Canadian Institute of Welding way back.
Oh, yeah.
And he used to drag me to all these meetings, and I remember him and his union buddies. They would get taught the history of their union. They would get, like, it was part of the course to learn about the history and be, proud of, growing and maintaining and representing your union. I worked private industry almost my entire life. I only got into unions late in my career, and I always felt like I don't need to go into a boil or into a union because I had a great career, right? But I didn't have a support. I didn't have someone vouching for me or helping me with training. I didn't have anyone to call that could be like, hey, as a mentor, and I didn't have a history that I could be like, oh, well, welding started in when the first man started a fire. I don't know, like, like it's a beautiful thing that I think the unions can do. And I'm sure, like, I mean, you've worked in there a long time. I'm sure you support that concept.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. There's a pride that comes with an organization that has supported and promoted safe workplaces, for workers, the collective agreements. So ensuring that we have, you know, important things that help us have a quality life is really important. And I think unions do that. Doesn't matter if it's the Boilermakers Union or the Teachers Union or the Nurses Union or the Ironworker Union. They
That was
they
hard for you to say there. I saw that.
they they support their members, and that's what they're
Hmm.
there to do. And I
That's the
think
point,
without unions, we would certainly be paid less across the board. If
That's
you're
what
for
that was going to be my
union
next
or
point. Yeah.
non-union, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they
And
set a bar.
it's amazing thing, we come from a communist country, Chile, which is communism and unions go hand in hand. Many of the Chileans that came to Canada were very involved with unions here. It was part of our like upbringing, the way we were born to be raised, very pro union. I remember going to union rallies as a kid. And then I ended up having a life of a non-union worker. And people would be like, "Are you anti-union?" It's like, not at all. Like, I mean, that's not the way I look at it, but I would not be making the money I make in my private job if it wasn't, unions out there battling for healthcare, private care, pensions and all these things, because then it becomes a competition between industry owners and the unions, and it's a healthy competition. It's good. It's good that everyone elevates each other, you know what I mean? Even though there can be some bad blood at times between whatever, at the end of the day, the big picture, really we're all just trying to make a buck and do what's best for ourselves. So, actually, we're at 30 minutes. Perfect. We'll take the commercial break right now.
Okay.
And when we get back, I want to ask about all these programs that are happening now, because the Boilermakers are moving and shaking like crazy, right? Like more than I've ever seen in my life. More than I've ever seen in my life. Commercials, programs, advertisements, training programs across the country. I have never seen a movement like this from any of the unions. And so I really want to talk to you to see, why now, and what the steps are. And for the people listening, how can they get involved? So stay tuned. We'll be back with Jamie Bevan here from the Boilermakers after the break. Don't go anywhere. And we're back here on the CWB Association Podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we're here with Jamie Bevan, who's the National Director of Recruitment. I probably said that wrong 100 times from the Boilermakers. Will
Director
that
of
work?
National Training.
Director of National Training. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of dyslexic there. So, she's here to walk us through her career, as a female coming up through the trades and the supports, and how she really believes that the Boilermakers Union was able to help and facilitate her success as a woman and as a Boilermaker. Now, in your role today, what do you do today? What's your job?
So today I'm again, the Director of
Hmm.
National Training for the Boilermakers. And national training helps with multiple things across the country. So we help coordinate programs that happen nationally. We support each of our locals across the country and their training coordinators with development of programs. We offer programs. We have a Boilermaker virtual campus. So we do things to try and elevate and connect across the country with our locals, and then with governments and other organizations like the CWB.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's some of the things that we do at national training.
Now, with like, there's all this stuff happening, and it's like really amazing. And we don't have enough time to go over all these
Yeah.
programs, but since you've been with the Boilermakers for a long time, when kind of were these decisions maybe sparked within your organization to be like, okay, we're going to have to really ramp up our game here. We really need to get out there and start looking for funding, looking for partners, looking for ways to increase our footprint, education wise, training wise, recruitment wise. When did these because this doesn't happen overnight, you know, there must have been a strategy or game plan put in at some point. When did that start kind of coming into play in the Boilermakers?
Well, I'm really glad you're seeing that. I I'd like to say that it was, this all of a sudden thing, but the Boilermakers have been tremendously proactive about recruitment for quite a period of time now.
Mhm.
And so I think in the last few years, well, pandemic notwithstanding, we've
Mhm.
really been able to kind of see opportunities and go after grants and really focus in on recruitment. We know that we're going to need people, and so we're not going to wait. It takes 3+ years to build a good
Mhm.
journey person, and so we want to make sure that we have the people in place and are filling our memberships. So that's yeah, I think it's been kind of a continual thing, but I think we've really seen and had some good opportunities over the last couple of years to leverage some of our relationships
And what
and
are
just
some of
create.
these numbers you see in terms of replacement? Like when you look at the Boilermakers and you say, we're going to need 3 to 4 years before, before we can start the plan today, but we're not going to pull a fruit till for 4 years. So if I'm looking for a welder today, I'm already 4 years behind, right?
Yeah, if you're looking starting one from scratch. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So what
Yeah.
what kind of replacement numbers are you talking about? Like, are you going to need a few hundred welders, a few thousand welders, tens of thousands of welders? Like, what's the Boilermakers vision here?
Yeah, I don't have any numbers to give you,
Hmm.
Max, sorry. But across Canada, it varies so much. So as a whole, we're looking at big recruitments in Alberta and Ontario and BC. And so those are kind of focus areas at this time. And we have
Hmm.
members across Canada and the US that can kind of help support those. But we just want to make sure that we're really staying on top of it and being able to supply the qualified excellent Boilermakers and welders that we have in our ranks.
And what about your guys' training facilities? Have you guys invested in the training facilities, expanded them, maybe focused on some more than others based on your game plan?
Yeah, we've over the last, and I'll say 10 years, there's been a lot of either new training centers built or established across the country. So we've got in Ontario, they've got a new center there. In Alberta, we've got a new center. We built one in Calgary, which was a little bit before that. BC, a few years ago, built a new training center attached to their union hall. So there has been investment in training, knowing that that's the future. That's where we want to do what we want to do there.
And in these training centers, what are the, and I'm going to talk about welding specific here because this is, most of our audience is welders. What are
Absolutely.
the type of requirements or I guess qualifications that a Boilermaker will seek to get? Like, are they looking at CWB tickets? Are they looking at ASME, API? Like, what are the kind of like, these are the tickets or qualifications you need to be a successful welder within the Boilermakers?
it's and it's going to be different from jurisdiction to
Okay.
jurisdiction because
Yeah.
other than CWB, there isn't really a standard across the country.
Hmm.
And some provinces don't have the same apprenticeship set up as they do. And like I'm familiar with Alberta that has a welding
Hmm.
apprenticeship, but that's not the case across the country. But for Boilermakers, and we'll talk specifically for welders, it's all your upgrade training to like the initial pressure. So I'll just call it that because across the country,
The initial six.
each of
Yeah.
them has their own name.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got your initial pressure that's important. But Boilermakers, as many of your listeners might know, do a lot of very it's pressure work. It's precise. Will be in boilers, heat exchangers. So you're working with stainless and Inconel, those types of things. So you have to be able to do those processes. And so there's a series of tickets that you could get after your initial pressure. So and TIG and stick, but lots of those are definitely happening across the country.
When I was young, I got hired at a job and we were gonna go on site and I was standing this guy, he's still a friend of mine, Jerry. He's like 6'5", like one of these big Saskatchewan farm kids, just a giant. And I'm a little Latino guy, so I'm like 5'6" if I wear heels. And it's like standing next to the guy, and the foreman came out and he said, "Okay, tall guy, you go with the iron workers. Short guy, you go with the pipe fitters because you can fit inside of things." And I always thought about that. And then been on many work sites where I see the Boilermakers, and they're getting into crazy spaces. Like, I mean, a lot of the work they do is in tight spaces, upside down, inside out, doing finesse TIG work, hanging, from a rope, which is like, I got mad respect for that. I don't know if I got that, but when I if I'm putting this together and I have a class full of, let's say I got 12 girls, and women generally are shorter stature, it's like this might be perfect gig for you because you fit inside of things. Because I know I got all the short people jobs, and
Yeah. Yeah.
being short was not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That I could get in a lot of spaces other people couldn't get into, and I got me a lot of work. And the
Yeah.
really, really big dudes, they were out in the yard hauling material around, even if they were a better welder than me, because they couldn't get their heads into those into those jobs. So,
Yeah.
is this true, or was that foreman just being funny? Like,
No, no, there are certainly for anyone of a smaller stature, there are certainly opportunities like with the Boilermakers for that type of welding, because you're correct. Working in confined spaces is really what we do. And
Mhm.
there, and I have to brag a bit. I am not a welder, and the Boilermaker welders are just unbelievable. The tasks they can do. In some of the spaces, they're welding. It's TIG welding. They'll be doing it with mirrors because they can't actually get their bodies onto that side of the structure, so they have to be able to weld using a mirror, and so that's challenging. We train them to be ambidextrous. You've got to be able to use both hands equally. Sometimes it's incredible the
Mhm.
skill and the quality and the practice that comes with that. Like our welders, the amount of effort and energy that they put to practicing and maintaining and honing those skills, just yeah, amazing.
I remember when I was like in my mid 30s, my dad had moved away, like my family had moved away to Vancouver for a long time. He got a job out there, and I had stayed in Regina. And I had kind of become what I thought was pretty accomplished welder. I had all my tickets and I thought it was pretty cool. And I remember my dad came to visit and he's like, "I'm gonna bring something for you," because I had been bragging to him on the phone. And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's see your tickets." And I had my little, you get those little sleeve books where you could put all your tickets into. And actually, I think this one was, sorry, an ironworker one, because they just gave them to me on site. Here's one for you. So I was using it. I still have it somewhere. And he's like, "Well, that's cute." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, here's my Boilermaker one." And it was a binder. And it was a binder full, like it was Inconel stainless, duplex, all these TIG, and like no MIG tickets in there though, all sticking in TIG. And I was like, "Okay, show off." Like, when he retired, he actually gave it to me, and I show it to students now. I'm like, my dad had way more tickets than me, and some of them were like old school, like right back to the 60s and 70s, right? So
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah. They put in a lot of work and have some pretty mad skills.
yeah. Now, with your guys' training programs you have running now, there's one that you guys just finished the first cohort, and I seen an advertisement for him being like, "Congratulations to the first class." What program was that one?
It's the filling the gap pressure welder
Filling the
training
gap, right?
program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one we have done in partnership with the CWB group, and it was part of the UTIP, the Union Training and Innovation Program through Employment and Social Development Canada. And so we put in this, we got together the
Giant
Boilermakers,
proposal.
the Boilermakers and the CWB, about like if we could dream the perfect program to fill the needs of what we're seeing, because there's apprentices or individuals that go through welding, but they don't get the opportunity to weld, and yet they need those skills to get those high-end welding tickets in order for their
Hmm.
career to go, in order for industry to have those individuals. And so we dreamt up this program that would fill that gap and meet those needs. And so yeah, we had our first pilot came in November, December, and the pilot was in Edmonton at local 146. And yeah, we're very, very proud of the results. All individuals, I think one is still working, but all of them went through and got their initial pressure, plus on top of that, additional certifications that are going to help them.
Hmm.
We had some apprentices in the class, and so they were able to get in Alberta what's known as a C ticket.
Hmm.
So yeah, very, very excited about the results.
Now, in these programs, because I
Yeah.
actually haven't looked into them, like, I mean, that's a different department of the CWB.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
mine. So, is there, like, in the training development, it's like obviously welding skills, your initial pressure tickets. Okay, these are all welding related. What about other supports? Is there, any, like, is there a forklift? Is there confined space training? Is there H2S? Is there any of these other things involved with this programming, or is this like mainly focused for welding?
It's mainly welding, but we do have the opportunity if someone needs their safety certifications to be job ready, that the program will provide those for them.
Mm.
So just to kind of like summarize what it is, right now it's 8 weeks of training that goes through a list of competencies, which allows the program to be flexible. But the intent is to have individuals come into the program across Canada. We're hoping in the 5 years of the program that they can take the training across Canada, and they will come in with welding skills. So there will be like a foundation of welding experience, not necessarily having their initial pressure yet. And so
Mhm.
the goal is to really get them the initial pressure, and then the additional qualifications that are going to make them job ready with welding certifications and safety certifications. So yeah, so it's intense. It's a lot of welding, a lot of time spent in the booth, but that's a great place to get those skills, because just on the job site, until you have your pressure, it's very difficult to do that.
Well, and if you're doing your max out initial six, the SCED 80,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of rod. Like if you're doing, F3, F4, you're there for hours, and it's not an easy test. Although I've worked with some people that make that look really easy, and I'm always very jealous. I'm pretty good at it. I can pass, but I'm not great.
Yeah.
Like some people, it's just like butter to them. Just like, boot, there's my root done. Here's my filling cap done, and they're out in an hour. I'm there 2.5 hours, cleaning this thing up still, and it's amazing how useful those skills are for all sectors. Whether or not you continue to be a boilermaker, if you decide to get these welding skills, and I know on your end, obviously you want them to stay in the boilermakers and be successful, but even in general as a welder, learning how to weld pipe and pressure welding is very useful for everything you're going to do in terms of competencies.
Yeah. I know your listeners will know how volatile the welding industry is.
Hmm.
We have a slowdown across the country, and welders, we see the greatest attrition. We see the greatest dropouts of apprentices, because when that work isn't available, and if your skills are just kind of at that journey person level, you are going to be feeling those ups and downs of the economy and of industry. And so I think throughout what we've seen in the Boilermakers for the demand of highly skilled welders, that's what you need in
Hmm.
order to have those opportunities that others might not have. And if you can get those certifications and get those skills, you will be employable, and there will be companies that are looking to hire you, and the
No,
Boilermakers will employ you.
yeah,
As
100%. And that's such a wonderful point you make. My career, people are like, oh, you've been lucky in your private career. To I've never been unemployed. I've never gone more than a couple days. Like, even if I got laid off a job, it's like I'll like get laid off on a Wednesday, I take the rest of the week off. On Monday, I'm working somewhere else. And people ask, well, how? Because there's so many unemployed welders out there. It's like, well, sort of. There's a lot of unemployed welders out there that lack skills. So even as a instructor or a mentor, a company will reach out to me and say, can you send me 5 welders? Okay, I gotta ask a question then. Be like, well, what level? Like, how? I can send you 5 people that know how to weld, and you might not like any of them, and I like all of them. They're all good welders, but they're not what you're looking for. You need to be more specific, because you need them to be X or Y or Z. And to make yourself employable, you got to make sure that you have X, Y, or Z, because you got to stand out from the group, right? Like I said earlier, stainless was my game, so I always made sure I had all my stainless tickets up to date, because then if I had to look for work, that made my resume stand out. Sure, we all have the same 7018 tickets, we all have the same 6010 tickets, but I have my stainless tickets, and they were rated differently back then, but here they are. This sets me out from the pack to hopefully get the job. And that was the key. And I always tell young kids that too. It's like, s- chase every cert you can, every safety ticket you can, site certifications, mine certifications, altitude, confined spaces, H2S, H2S plus now. Like there's different levels you can take within
Yeah.
these. Chase them all, right?
Yeah. And supervisor training. Like, don't
Absolutely.
stop it. Like, the skills are important, but it's incredible what will happen to individuals with really finely honed people skills. Those people skills,
Hmm.
will also help keep them employed, have people calling them for work. So all of those things really tie in, and for women out there, definitely like take all of those programs. They'll do nothing but help you.
So now for these courses that you guys are running, these programs, are you guys looking to try to like fix the ratio? Or are you guys just taking people in openly first come, first served? Like, are you looking to have 30% women or 10% or whatever number it is, X number percent people of color or newcomers? Is there any of that going on? Which I support 100%, but I understand also if it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, we're early into the life of the
Hmm.
duration of the program, and so we're already seeing lots of like our recruitment is definitely the demographics are opening up. It's
Spread
far
out.
different
Yeah.
than it has been in the past, and so we're hoping over the course of the program, um, we're going to see that, and we'll be watching it, and we've got partners in different provinces that will also be supporting us with, talking about our programs to women and
Promoting
indigenous.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really wanting to reach out to a bunch of different communities and recruit for sure.
So if the Boilermakers host a program in my area and I'm a welder, a little bit of experience, enough to qualify for the program, and I get accepted, I go through the program, I pass my tests, I'm a win-win.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm a Boilermaker now?
That's a good question. Each local is going to work differently. The
Okay.
next step would be really to get a job, and if you complete all of those things, they are going to get you to work.
Okay.
That's the next step, and then yeah, membership would come after that. But
Because
they would
that's
certainly be having
often a
these conversations. Yeah.
yeah, that's often a question you get as a teacher. It's like, okay, well, I sign up for a 1 year course, I pay $7,000, I take a welding course, and then I'm a welder. Well, technically, no. Like you have your training, you
Yeah.
have the skills, but now you need work, right? You're not really anything until you do it for a living. And that's kind of what I thought when I was looking over your programs, and that's a kind of a tricky line to walk because you can say, okay, well, we're going to take all these people, everyone that passes is automatically a Boilermaker, and I was like, that's probably not right, but there's probably still a requirement of work or of being hired on, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's where that permit, like that system, still kind of
Mm.
comes into play. The programs right now are scheduled for when people complete the program, there'll be work available, if not right away,
Mm,
then
sure.
shortly, because we really want individuals to go to work. That's, at the end of the day, you talked about money at the beginning. At the end of the day, people want to go to work. People want to
Hmm.
have those opportunities. And so we want to make sure we're timing these programs that we're not training for training's sake. We are training to get people employment. And so that's, and get people employed at those upper levels in the welding industry.
Now, who else are you guys partnering with? Because it was a program so large in scope. I can't imagine that it's just the Boilermakers and CWB. Like, maybe it is, but what kind of other partners do you guys have backing you? Like, how are you guys rolling this out?
Yeah, it's for the most part, it is the Boilermakers and the CWB group.
Hmm.
We also have some diversity groups that we're going to be expanding. We have some out of BC, helmets to hard hats,
Oh,
are also supporting. So, but as we roll into this, we are really going to probably move more into recruitment in um, like years to come, which will then really engage those partners and expand what those partnerships look like.
and then what about the people in the provinces that aren't listed right now? Are these programs eventually working their way into the areas that aren't, in the pilots or in the initial conception?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We're hoping to work with those locals in those provinces and those jurisdictions, that they have the need for the course. Because again, we're not training just to train. If
Hmm.
they have people and they don't need the training and they've got everyone trained to the level that they need, then we won't necessarily be running it in that jurisdiction if it's unnecessary. But we're hoping to expand and do what we can across the country with this.
Does all the training happen on Boilermaker ground, buildings, training centers, or have you guys partnered with colleges or anything else?
For the most part, it's happened in locals. We've got one area that's being contracted to like another facility. But if it's necessary, if the locals are really busy and the training centers are really busy, we're open and looking at what other options we have to make sure we can offer the training.
That's super exciting. Like it's exciting to see the government invest money, and it's not a small amount of money. The UTIP program, Boilermakers aside, like you guys aren't the only group a part of this. The UTIP is huge, right? This is a massive incentive into the trades. It's unprecedented, really, in Canada, and and it's good to see it being put to immediate use. From the announcement of UTIP, I think it was about a year and a half ago. Like, I mean, for programs already to be rolling out, courses already be there's already graduating students, right,
Yeah.
that are going to be hitting the floor. That in the world of government is moving at light speed. And it's because I think the government finally realized that they can't do this. The government can't make tradespeople. The government can't put people into trades programs. The government needs to partner. They need to partner with agencies that know how to recruit, with agencies that know how to certify, with agencies that know how to give people like actual jobs, not just training for training. Because colleges could get piles of money, and I'm not slagging colleges. I work for a college, and I love what colleges do. But colleges walk a very tricky line where we want to put through as many welders as possible, but we have no say where they go after. None. And we can't support them after. Like, really, there's nothing we can do to continue staying in these students' careers. Whereas, agencies like yourself, like the unions, you're looking at professional associations, you're looking at or even some large companies that have great programs, they will walk an employee through the steps for their life. And those are the people you need to support, because as much as we want to push people through the opening of this pipeline and get them out there, if there's no work for them or it's not set up properly, then it's kind of a wasted step. You want to be able to for people to keep moving, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Career growth and career expansion. And yeah, the program. So the UTIP program, I don't know if we mentioned it, it's the Union Training and Innovation Program. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's been something that the federal government has had rolling for a number of years now to support
Mhm.
unions and partners, ensure that we've got training and we have training that's linked to employment. So yeah, it's great.
Now, for the detractors out there, maybe let's touch on that, because there's going to be people out there that are like, I don't know if I like the federal government getting involved in the trades. People should just figure it out on their own. What would be like maybe a message for the listener that's like unsure about this investment? Like, I know how I feel about it. You're gonna have an opinion, so like, what's your opinion on this investment? Obviously biased, but I think that bias is valid, right?
Thanks, Max. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think my bias is valid. My thoughts on it, I think governments, provincial or federal, get involved when they see that there's a need that's not getting met. And so
Mhm.
that is what they've done. They have recognized that we are going to have labor shortages. If people aren't talking about that, they should be. And so this was a way to be proactive and help Canadians get skills that help them be employed.
Yeah. It's interesting because that's these conversations we have where you're in meetings and it's like, whoa, we're going to be short 10,000 welders in 2 years. It's like, shouldn't we have been talking about this a long time ago? Like, and like, and I'm sure it was, but maybe not to the point where it should have been. Like, and I think Alberta probably does it better than almost any province of really promoting the trades and having a good stream set up right from high school, dual credit programs, and all these amazing things that happen in Alberta are just starting to happen in other provinces. And there might be still a lot of like social bias to the trades, being like, well, it's maybe not what I would want my daughter or son to get into because it's seen as the hard or dirty or something like that. It's like we need to get way past that by now. Like,
Yeah, yeah, culture shift again. Not
culture
easy,
shift.
Not easy.
Not not easy.
No, but when we promote it, we're all champions. So,
Mm-hmm.
every welder and you and myself and the people that are involved in the trades talk about the positive parts because there are
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal opportunities, and I'm so grateful for my life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really the trades is what's provided me this, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, my family from my dad, like my upbringing, like my whole existence falls under the trades blanket. I don't know what I'd be if it wasn't for the trades. I mean, my philosophy education didn't take me too far, so that's kind of was a struggle there. I'd be like standing on a soapbox outside of 7-Eleven trying to make money. I don't know, but you know, now we're coming up to the end of the podcast. In terms of the future of yourself within your professional career, do you see yourself working with the Boilermakers forever? Is this like you're or like, I know you have some major hobbies, like major hobbies, like uh, do you have maybe a side hustle going on with your ranch and stuff like that? A little bit for like what's Jamie's plan going forward?
Yeah, I am very happy with where I'm at with the Boilermakers. I think this role allows me the opportunity to create programming and work with the locals across the country and work with individuals across the country to kind of, move us into the next realm, the next phase,
Mm-hmm.
who the Boilermakers are going to be. And I think that's super exciting. I think we have a heritage and a history and a tradition that needs to be honored and respected. And how can we build on that to, what is it going to look like in 2022 and onward? So I'm very passionate about that part. This has never been just a job for me.
Mm-hmm.
I took the first call and I tried out being a Boilermaker and I fell in love with it. And it's been a phenomenal career with so many opportunities. And you mentioned education, and just for the listeners, like, you don't stop at a trade certificate. You don't stop at your certifications. You take those opportunities to get additional training. I have university training now that I never thought of getting when I left high school, but I was able to do that after I was a tradesperson, and there's tons of opportunities. So I'm very passionate and very happy about where I'm at in my career with the Boilermakers now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as side hustles, no, you're right. I do have a ranch, and so I need a job in order to pay for all the mouths I have to feed. So yeah, we have a bit of a sanctuary here where we say rescue horses, and so
Mm-hmm.
as a retirement hustle, I'll just be feeding horses. That's kind of the plan.
You're still gonna be an
plan.
ambassador to the Boilermakers forever. I know you. You'll be like, I'm retired, and then I'll see you at every golf tournament and at everything for the
Yeah,
next till
if
you're a
I
little
can.
old lady. But
Yes,
they're still fun to go to.
yes, they are. Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
Awesome.
no, a
So
long
to
road
wrap,
ahead, I'm hoping.
yeah, to wrap this up, I guess maybe give our listeners a bit of a roadmap of how do I get involved? How do I reach out? Where do I look for some of these programs, or even just for their maybe opportunities in their area?
Yeah, no, for sure. First stop, boilermaker.ca. So if you look at our Canadian Boilermaker site, we have information on the Union Training and Innovation Program, the pressure welder program. We also have can connect you to our training coordinators and recruiters across the country. And as you said, there is a lot of energy and that going into recruitment across the country. So if you are at all interested in the Boilermakers, please reach out, head to our website, and contact a training coordinator in your area. And we'd be, yeah, happy to talk to you and what opportunities are for you with us.
And do you have all these special programs that are running right now through UTIP grants and through like these new innovative ways? Are they also listed on the website?
Yeah, yeah, we have all of our news is there. So all the updates of what's happening with the Boilermakers is there.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, is there anything that I've missed in terms of your role or your? I mean, your passion just jumps out. I'm sure you've heard that said to you before in terms of supporting the Boilermakers and as a strong woman within the Boilermakers, and I think that that's a very important mentorship position to be in. So I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish the listeners and, women welders and potential Boilermakers out there, just, there's so many opportunities out there, and it's just been a phenomenal career, and we have to stay positive and look at all the opportunity and, what it really is. And I wish everyone the best of luck in their careers. And yeah, thank you, Max, for the
Yeah.
opportunity to talk to you
Awesome.
today. I really appreciate it.
And I think are you going to be out in Halifax for the
I
CAF
will.
conference?
Yeah, the
I
Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. Yeah, and there's at the end of that week, there's a Supporting Women in Trades conference as well through the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. So I highly recommend tradeswomen getting to that and checking it out.
That's a great plug. I forgot about that. So it's SWIT. It's supporting women in
Right.
trades, right?
Yes.
So and that's the week. Basically, the CAF conference is like a Sunday to Tuesday, and then I think SWIT is like Thursday to Saturday or something like that. It's like kind of within the same week. I know I'm I know I'm at the CAF conference for sure. We're just deciding if we are going to be at SWIT or not, because I know the foundation, I think, is planning on being there. So, it's going to be really fun, and there's going to be lots of cool stuff going on there. So it's going to be a really exciting week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum just does phenomenal work. So hopefully people can make it or check out their website and see what they've got going on.
Yeah, and actually on the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, they have a bunch of free stuff on there too, like really cool links. They got supporting pages, they got grants, they got all sorts of stuff. So there's a plug for them. They're not paying for any of this, but they are great. We pay for memberships there, and it's definitely worth the money. So
Yeah, I sit on the board there, so it's
there's the plug. There it is.
yeah, exactly. I know they do great work. Great work.
Awesome, Jamie. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been really great. And, for all the listeners, make sure you check out the boilermakers.ca website, see what they got going on. There's so many opportunities there. And this is a shout out to my dad as a Boilermaker. I know that he had a good career, I love what you guys are doing, and I think it's great for the country and for the industry in general.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Max. You take care.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, thanks for being with us for another episode. We'll see you again next week. Make sure you keep downloading and sharing our episodes out to your friends. Let everyone know about the CWB Association podcast. We are very happy, and we have some great new sponsorship and supporters coming on with the podcast. So, this is all just to elevate the brand and to help you guys out there for free. So that's the whole point. So, really to help support the industry at every level we can. So stay tuned and keep listening.
We hope you enjoy the show.